From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, the present is bleak. You're 1-5. But there's some hope for the future. We'll hang on to that. But the running game, the offensive line, the people responsible for the offensive line, the run game. Nope. Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Promo code Corey Clark, please.
It is Warchant BOGO.
Yeah, that's right. Buy one, get one free when you go to VitaminEnergy.com and use the promo code Warchant BOGO, Warchant BOGO, as Corey said. Vitamin Energy, again, the world's first clinically proven energy shot to not only improve your energy, obviously, with 260 milligrams of all-natural caffeine and no sugar, but also to reduce brain fog, which is a real legitimate thing affecting millions of Americans. Look it up, kids. Also improves your mood, your workouts, your immune response, hydration levels, all in one little shot that's not even 2 ounces. This bottle, you can take it anywhere you go. No sugar crash. Try the variety pack. All the flavors, all the different varieties with all the different nutrients to help you out. And I can't tell you which one is best because we're all different and we all got different goals that we're looking for. But I assure you, try the variety pack. You're going to find at least one shot in there that you're going to be like, dang, that tasted great. And my day went fantastic. So give it a shot. Shake it and take it. VitaminEnergy.com. Warchant.com, ultimate Seminole sports source. 5-star rating review, everybody, please. Thumbs up as well. Certainly appreciate it. Corey Clark, obviously, in the house with his check-in on the Warchant BOGO promo code from the top. But how are you, Corey?
I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm not great, or any of us great, suffering through this madness. But, pretty good overall, I think. I got to see Brady. He came down for the game. Clearly
nice.
Not a good luck charm. Just moving on. I'm on to Duke. Actually, I'm on to the bye week.
Yeah.
And then on to Duke.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we're in this weird part of this downward spiral, if you will, to where, like, when they lost to Memphis, it's like, oh, my gosh, you just lost to a group of 5 school. Then when they lost to SMU, it's like, oh, my gosh, you just lost, like, really bad. Like, it was like a blowout. I mean, that was a blowout loss. But, like, now we're the Clemson loss, it was 2 possessions, kind of, but was it? Was it really not? You allowed 500 yards, but again, the game was still a game in the fourth quarter. It's like there's nothing spectacular about the way, at least like they were losing kind of in like spectacular fashion, which I guess maybe this is the lose small portion of the rebuild that I guess we're back in right now. But I just feel that there's so much confusion after this one because you walk away from it feeling a little bit better about where you're at because of the quarterback and the way he played. But then you're also like, man, we're 1-5 and this isn't fun anymore. Not that it was fun at 1-4, but it's a weird place to be with the way they lost on Saturday, I feel like, because again, it didn't feel competitive, but you really listen, I'm really not all that despondent right now, Corey. I am buoyed by the way that Brock Glenn played. So, but I understand, like, reading all the comments, like, a lot of people want the fire and brimstone, but I'm just like, no, man, like, they were a 1-4 team. Clemson's much better than they are, and they actually made it a game into the fourth quarter, like, and you have a lot to build on from here. So I'm really not that dejected right now.
Well, it's funny because when it comes to Brock Glenn, yeah, man, that's what competent quarterback play looks like. That's what somebody that's on time with throws, trusts what they see, gets rid of the ball, can fit it into tight windows, will try to throw it into tight windows. Won't just sit there and take sack after sack after sack or roll out and throw it away. Like, he was there to make plays, and that was good to see. And there was a moment, it might have been the last drive of the game where the game was already over, where Brock Glenn avoided the rush, scrambled to his left, could have maybe run for a few yards, but kept scrambling, looking, and then hit like a 20-yard throw. And Ira was sitting next to me like, oh, look at that. I'm like, Ira, that happens all over the country. Every game. Yeah. Florida State is the only team in the country, as far as I can tell, that doesn't have anybody that can do something like that until Brock Glenn played. And then you wonder, as you watch that game, yeah, man, if he had just started the season, if he was just the starter, and they'd if they'd spent the DJ money on something else, what's their record right now? I'm guessing 3-3. And I don't know if that's fair. They still have the worst running game in the history. So maybe he masked a few other flaws, but it's still the same. You still score. That was the thing is after the game, you did feel good. You felt like the offense made some plays. I know they were horrible on third down, but they still picked up some fourth downs. He had some drops. It looked like a competent passing offense for the first time, and they still scored 13 points. So and had 250 yards of offense. So it wasn't anything special, but it was such an uptick in just the aesthetic value of it. Yeah. That it felt like, okay, that's something to build on for the final 5 or 6 games of this season.
Yeah, I don't exactly know where I want to pivot to, but I do remember like last week seeing threads, some of my buddies texting me, what happens if Brock comes in there and balls? Like, that's going to be a terrible look for Norvell. And I'm like, well, listen, he's not going to have to worry about that because he's not going to come in there and ball out. But he played much better than I thought he was going to. I mean, it was 17-0 hole, that interception that he threw in the first half. I'm like, all right, this is kind of what we've seen in practice. This is why they went with the more experienced guy. But as that game went on, he got a little bit more comfortable. And like to your point, it still is 13 points, and you still got outgained nearly double. But there was some just level of competency that we have not seen from the quarterback since, I don't know, like maybe the first half of the Georgia Tech game this season that you're like, okay. And he's so young that you think that that's pretty much like a baseline floor, what he showed you based on the level of competition he went up against. And again, based on the fact that was his first start of the season. Now, if we keep getting a little bit better from here, if we get 1%, dare I say, and keep climbing on this thing, there's wins to be had in this calendar year. And then you think about, okay, this is somebody you can possibly look to in the future, which we had none of that hope and expectation 6 days ago, right?
Yeah, again, it's all for 2025. Everything we're watching, everything we're talking about for the rest of this season is all for 2025. And first things first, you got to figure out who the quarterback is. You just have to. He showed that he could be the guy, right? It wasn't like Louisville and Georgia were obviously horrible situations, but those were disasters. He didn't do anything. The offense was terrible. This was not a disaster by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, he had a couple of drops, or he would have probably thrown for over 250 yards. And he was, again, in such a hard situation. It's not just that it's Clemson for your first start. It's that you're on a bad football team and it's your first start with no running game and receivers that don't always make plays for you. And you immediately get into, 17-0? Mm-hmm. And then he comes back and kind of plays as well as Klubnik or better for the last 3 quarters of the game. Now, I know the contexts are different because Klubnik had a big lead, but that gives you some hope, man, that it looked good enough that you think, okay, by the August of 2025, this might be a guy that can be an all-ACC caliber quarterback. Will he be? Who knows? But at least he showed something in there, right? Compared not only to what we had seen this year from the other guy, but what we had seen from Brock Glenn in his other appearances. He looked like a guy that maybe, when he's a redshirt sophomore, could be a dude that wins you more than a few games.
Yeah, if we were lost in the forest and, I don't know, whatever he performed, it's enough for me to be like, all right, I'll follow you. I feel like you might know how to get us out of here and back to civilization. Don't know a lot about you. Verdict is still out, but I saw enough to where I'm like, okay, I think we can do this, and I'll follow you out of here. So I guess that was the encouraging part. What about we talked about the aesthetics of it. Final score 29-13. You're outgained 2-1. I mean, literally, they had 250 yards. Florida State. Clemson had 500. Was it as close as the scoreboard indicated, or was it every bit as lopsided as, I guess, part of the scoreboard indicated, or at least the stat sheet indicated, Corey?
No, Clemson was clearly the better team. I thought your defense was atrocious, except for inside the 20. And if Clemson had been better in the red zone, and you had something to do with that, but you hold them to 7 field goal attempts and you blocked 2 of them. But if they turn 7 of those field goal attempts into just 3 touchdowns, which isn't asking for a ton, well, all of a sudden you've given up 50 points, and you were close to giving up 50 points. You were pretty good. You were good on third down, and you were good in the red zone. I know people don't think they were good on third down, but I think Clemson was like 6 of 16, and that's why they had to settle for all those field goals. But it's the same thing, man. Like, you finally could score that touchdown early in the fourth quarter, or maybe like 10 minutes to go in the fourth quarter, to cut it to 10. You go for 2, and it's like I see all these other teams around the country when they go for 2 points, when they have a 2-point play, it doesn't look like a play 3rd and 1 from midfield or 3rd and 7 from midfield.
Yeah.
We're just going to snap it to our quarterback and let him scan around. Maybe somebody will be open. Like, come up with some sort of, I don't know, novel concept to try to get 3 yards other than just snapping it in the shotgun and having 5 receivers run in the end zone and hope your quarterback sees one that might get open. I don't know. I just see other kind of tricky plays, like plays that keep teams off balance. Florida State's 2-point package has been absurdly bad this year, but that's picking nits. There's a lot bigger fish to fry than this one. But anyway, so you get to within 10. You got some momentum. Brock Glennon made that nice run to get the crowd going on 4th down. He then makes a really nice throw to Ja'Kai. And then the very first play is a 60-yard run. Right up the gut with nobody there. It was not like Maffa had to make some special run that just, hey, it's a great running back. What are you going to do? Literally nobody touched him. So, again, the defense was not good. And, the defense has not been good all year, but it has not been as bad as the offense because the offense has been a disaster. And it was mostly again on Saturday because I continue to harp on the running game and how bad it is because it's unbelievably bad. It's uncharted territory how bad it is, unprecedented. But again, Brock Glenn was good enough that you think, okay, maybe there's something to build on there. And then the other part of my head is like, yeah, but if the defense is just going to be soft when it matters, when the game's on the line, just get driven up and down the field by a good but not great Clemson offense. No real fight. The only fight they seemed to show was trying to block field goals. It left you wanting a lot more from that side of the ball for me. 29 points is fine. That's good. That's a lot less than Clemson's been scoring lately. But you're supposed to be a good defense. And you gave up 500 yards on your home field.
Yeah, we'll talk about the defense, I guess, later on in the show. Let's get back, I guess, to the offense, and I guess let's keep it there with Brock, Corey. How much of what he did on Saturday, again, is it relatively speaking of what we've seen from DJ here in the past 5 games? How much of it is, again, like you watching college football, seeing how other quarterbacks performing, like, okay, this is in that ballpark, and that is what, at the very least, you should expect from a place like Florida State. And now that you have it, now you feel really, it's no longer like hoping for things. It's like, all right, we have a legitimate piece of the puzzle that we need to move forward with, and that's what we saw Saturday.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it's still too early. That's too small a sample size. We'll see what he does with the next couple of games. It just because, again, it was 13 points. Now the next game is on the road against a pretty good defense, man. Duke is no joke defensively. So it felt better. It looked better. But it was one game. Let's see what it actually looks like because he's got to start stacking on stuff. Like if the next game he can complete 75% of his passes. But here's the thing, Aslan. I was almost stunned with how well he threw the ball. Starting from the very first play, I think he might have – it wasn't just how well he threw the ball. That's not what I meant to say. He seemed to make every right decision. There was not one throw other than the interception, which we now know is Hakeem turning the wrong way. Brock's trying to throw on time in rhythm. Mike Norvell pointed that out in the press conference. He's trying to make a throw on time on 3rd down, and your receiver just broke right when he should have broke left. And so it threw right. It looks like he's throwing right to a linebacker. Well, that's on the receiver. But if that's the truth, which I don't think they would lie about that, well, then I can't remember any real throw where you're like, man, that was a horrible decision. Like he threw to guys that were slightly open or very open. He threw on time. He missed some throws, but they were to the right guy, right? They were the right read. And you can see, okay, and look, man, Jerry Williamson, you can catch that. Mekhi Danzy, you really need to catch that. But, of course, Brock Glenn's arm was hit as he threw it because why wouldn't it have been? But so there were a few drops there. Even the one I think was an early 3rd down conversion where he throws it low to Ja'Kai. And Ja'Kai drops it. If Ja'Kai catches it, it's probably a 1st down. There was going to be a defender right there at the line. It was like probably by his shins. It needed to be up by his hip. So I'm not going to say it was a good throw. He threw it too low. But number one, it probably still should have been caught. And number two, it was the right guy to throw to. It was on time, and it was quick, it was decisive, and it was to the right guy that should have been a first down, but he didn't get the throw there. You hope that's the stuff you can build on, because the most important thing to me when it comes to quarterbacking is seeing it and getting it there quickly. And he definitely seemed to see it and get it there quickly for the most part, right? Don't you agree with that?
Yeah, no, I mean, it was it was a level of confidence, a level of assuredness in the decisions that he was making. And that the bummer about that interception to Hakeem is that if Hakeem indeed was supposed to make that like a post route, which is what I think Brock was anticipating. He was anticipating that, because Hakeem did feint like he was going to make a post move, but it was a double move. Then he ended up going and running basically a 9 route. So if that actually is a post route for Hakeem and he breaks his route off the way that Brock thought it was going to be on the interception, Hakeem probably gets inside of that cornerback and makes the catch, and it's a gain of like 20 yards or whatever. If Brock stays patient one extra tick and waits for Hakeem to bounce back outside and go vertical, it's probably a touchdown. So that's like the real cruelty in that, was that whatever decision was made there by Hakeem, like if they would have been on the right page, it would have been a huge game, but obviously they were not. So
yeah, that's fair, because I keep painting it as it's Hakeem's fault. It's a sight adjustment. They're both reading the same thing. Yeah. Maybe Hakeem made the right choice and Brock made the wrong choice, all things considered. The point of the matter is they weren't on the same page, so that's why it looked like he threw it to no one. Yeah. It wasn't just that he threw it scared or he threw it 15 feet to the left. It was a miscommunication by two second-year guys that haven't played a lot of football together.
Yeah. I just think that we're going to continue to probably, unfortunately, see the things that plague a bad team, though, offensively. It's one thing after the other. Drops are still a thing. Maybe not as, folly-filled. It's not going off someone's face mask and then turning into an interception that almost gets returned for a touchdown, but we are still seeing drops. Now, apparently, like, snaps are going to be a problem. So, I just feel like there's a level of people are grading Brock on a curve. Like, okay, it was his first start. He also got betrayed by some phantom holding calls, and he also got betrayed by drops and then bad snaps. To which I'm my retort, unfortunately, is, well, hey man, they're just not a good team. So there's always going to be something holding this offense back and holding this quarterback back. And then the least of it, though, is those things I just mentioned. It's the running game being terrible. And I don't know at what point, how can they fix it? And I guess maybe this is the only angsty part of the show, maybe for me. Because again, man, I thought you were going to get 40 hung on you. I thought you were going to be lucky to get into the end zone twice. And listen, man, your defense for whatever reason bowed up, and the score was what it was. And I know the yardage might have fleshed out a different sort of result, but you walk away from it having some things to build off of. But man, the running game is just so inexplicably bad that you obviously can't fix it in season. And I just wonder at what point does Mike start considering that he's going to need a new offensive line coach or a new coordinator or both, because I don't know, Corey, we're year 5 and I like Alex Atkins, and this was a joke of an offensive line he inherited when he got here in that 2020 season, and he made it somewhat adequate. He made it, dare I say, good, at least in 2022. Everything else around, every other part of the offense was excellent last year, so I guess the offensive line wasn't going to be as much of a hindrance. So it wasn't going to get as much sort of blame when you're winning 13 games and you look the way that Florida State looked in the regular season in the championship game. But man, at this point, you pair this with 20 and 21, and I guess maybe you start looking back at 23 and how that might have held you back from being even better. Maybe you would have had more style points in some of those wins, and maybe you don't get left out of the playoff. But this offense is the running game is just so poor, and it has at some point fall on the offensive line and who they're evaluating and how they're being developed, because they're not really being developed.
Yeah, in that, look, man, I am on that train. I think I've been on that train for probably a month now, because it dates back to last year. It's not just a one-year anomaly. Like, oh, they were great last year. They were 13-0. What are you talking about? It's just one bad year. Well, yeah, they were 13-0, but it wasn't because of the greatness of Alex Atkins or that offensive line. Just isn't. It wasn't. They have developed exactly 0 linemen that have contributed at all to this program in 5 years. And I mean, like, guys that they recruited starting in 2021. Nobody has made an impact. Our man Otto played on Saturday night. Had a couple of. He was called for 2 holds. One of them, I guess it was Malik Benson made a great catch. By the way, can we go back to that for a second, Aslan?
Sure.
Yes, there were a couple of drops. Portier had an awful drop. Wouldn't have mattered. There was a hold.
Yeah, right.
Darian Williamson had a terrible drop.
I don't know, man.
Why
Are we expecting him to
falling
catch
down?
that ball?
Be an athlete. Be an
I don't
athlete.
know. I don't know.
Be an athlete. It was not as if the ball was on him in half a second. He knew where the ball was thrown. Judge the ball. Like, I don't see other D1 receivers where they're 3 yards behind a DB running to the ball and then starting to back up like a center fielder and falling down. That's not what that position is. Go make an adjustment and go make the play. If he has to hand it to you in a breadbasket every time, it's a 60-yard throw. Those are hard to make exactly where you need them to be. Go adjust to the ball and make a play. But anyway, so I'm going to call that a drop. It was a bad drop. They scored on that drive anyway. So the point being, the only drop that I thought really killed them was the Danzy drop. It was a 13-point game. He's open. Of course, Brock Glenn gets hit because this offensive line is this offensive line. The ball is he isn't led. He has to come back to the ball, but it hits his hands. He should have caught it, and he didn't. And Danzy, I think, needs to just be on the field more, but that wasn't a great start to his career. But other than that, you think about the reason I brought this up because Benson made that great catch that was nullified. A great catch, man, a big time catch that was nullified because of a hold where your guard just gets completely run over. And maybe he tackles him down. Maybe he just gets run over and it looks like a hold. And the guy trips on his face after bowling him over.
He pulled him down. I mean, the kid did a flip.
Well, you said phantom. I never saw the replays.
I'm just trying to pander and be a little bit empathetic to people that are thinking that Florida State is, snake bit when it comes to. Listen, he got bowled over, but as he was falling to his back, he grabbed the kid's jersey, and you could see him yanking on the jersey, and he pulled him down with such force that the kid, he didn't just fall on top of Otto, he literally flipped, because he was being pulled down with such force. But can carry on. I'm sorry.
Perfect time for that, Andre. Maybe not. Maybe your guard doesn't just have to be completely run over. But anyway, it happens. The guys are good on the other side. But I thought overall, the receivers went and made a lot of tough catches. Portier made a tough first down catch. Benson made a tough first down catch. Douglas made a couple of big catches. Obviously, Amari Williams makes a really nice catch in the end zone. And Landon Thomas had a really good game. Hakeem had a couple of big catches.
Yeah,
and the point I'm bringing up there is that a lot of those guys I just mentioned are young dudes. And it's the first time they really had to do this in a game that mattered. And so that only helps and stacks and builds confidence. And I do think you can see something perhaps, especially with the tight ends, but with the young kids, the young skill guys overall, that maybe there is something to build on. And I like that McCoy got in there. Didn't get thrown to, but I like that he was in there. I like that it was Danzy was in there. I think they're going to be doing that for the rest of the year, which they need to.
I thought they brought in McCoy. They brought in McCoy when I think Benson dropped the basket toss.
Oh, did they? Yeah, okay. Yeah, but he played more than that. He came in and played a good bit in the second half. But of course, he dropped that. You had the terrible snap, a couple of bad snaps, but that was the worst one because you're driving. It's 1st and 10, and now the drive is over because it's 2nd and 27. But anyway, so going back to the point, I was after the game, I was kind of just not happy, but kind of content with what I saw because all I wanted to see was something to be hopeful about. And I thought Brock Glenn gave you hope because it's such an important position, and you've been so bad there this year that I thought you got hope because you need hope for the future. And whether it's him or Cromanhawk or Trevor Jackson, you need some hope. So I was fine with that. And then on the way home, Stephanie was even telling me this. She's like, I wish I had my phone recording you because I just went on a 5-minute diatribe about how unbelievable, and I mean that word literally, bad this offensive line and this running game is. It is fireable. And I mean it is across the board fireable. Like if Mike Norvell wasn't owed $65 million, he would be on the chopping block, man. But you absolutely cannot. There is no excuses at all for an offensive staff and an offensive general, an offensive line to look this bad. And when I tell you, Aslan, I did some numbers. I did some research. Florida State is now, this isn't my research. I'm getting to that. Florida State is now 132nd in the country in rushing. That run by Brock Glenn at the end of the game, on the last play of the game to get 10 yards, kept them from being dead last. Who is dead last is Kent State. They average 57.6 yards per game. Florida State averages 58. Florida State, there are 72 players in this country that have rushed for more yards than Florida State has as a team. They average 58 yards a game. The next closest team in the AC, it's one thing to say, because we've done it all the time, right? Yeah, if they could just get the running game going. They're really struggling with the running game. Like Duke is saying that. The Duke offense is struggling right now to run the football. They average 112 yards a game, man. They average twice as much as Florida State. To put that in perspective, they're still 111th in the country, and they average twice as much running the ball as Florida State does. It is impossibly bad. And it is, and if it doesn't get fixed, and why would it over the next 6 games, you absolutely have to figure out as a head coach what the flip you're doing. Because this is inexcusable. I looked it up, Aslan, the 1973 Florida State team that was winless, 0-11, worst team in school history. It averaged like 10 points per game. In their first 6 games, Aslan, they rushed for 648 yards total, which ain't great. It's 108 yards a game. 648 yards. That's 300 more yards than the 2024 Florida State team. What the Sorry, yeah, I know you're going to have to bleep that out. But is that not a realistic question to ask?
Well, they ran the ball a lot more back then, Corey. They were run first team back in the day.
No, I mean more about you're ranked ahead of Kent State.
Yeah.
That's the only team in the country that runs the ball worse than you do. And they have a talent disparity that is nothing close to having 4- and 5-star offensive linemen on their roster and guys that transferred in that were big-time transfers, and they're 24 years old. So absolutely, this is such a debacle on a historical level, doing unprecedented things. The worst rushing offense in school history by a large margin. The second worst averaged twice as many yards a game as you do right now. So this was my diatribe, by the way. So Steph, you didn't have to record it. Here it is again for you to listen to. But that's why I just started thinking about it. And it's because we did the Warchant rap, and we're not pandering and we're not trying to make it seem better than we are, but we use words like they're struggling to get it going. No, Duke is struggling to get it going. Florida State is an embarrassment. Florida State is doing things that no ACC offense has probably ever done. In year 5, with an offensive line coach and an offensive coordinator that has been here for 5 years, and all these linemen are 23 years old. So why would it be any better next year? It is an embarrassment to the nth degree to run the ball like this. And so what does it matter who the quarterback is if you run the ball like this? And again, of course, whatever you do, Mike, don't let your quarterback run the ball. Don't tell your quarterback to pull it one time and run around the edge just to see what it looks like. Keep handing it off on those slow-ass mesh plays, 6 yards in the backfield, so you can get maybe back to the line of scrimmage. Maybe. Every single play you try, you get 1 yard or 2 yards. Toafili's your leading rusher. 10 carries for 16 yards. He had 1 9-yarder, meaning the rest of the game, your senior running back, who's done some good things in this sport, had 9 carries for 7 yards. And he was your leading rusher. So I don't want to normalize it, and clearly I'm not, and I can't get that. I won't be this mad moving forward because it's just a reality now. But I don't want to normalize that they just have a bad rushing attack. No. Duke has a bad rushing attack, and they average 50 yards a game more than Florida State does on the ground. 50. So that's why I'm so that's why I think even after 1 year, even though you just went undefeated last year, it is absolutely on the table that you bring a whole new staff in or a whole new scheme in that your offensive line coach can coach to, because this is not working. This is an embarrassment to running football all over this great land of ours. Now I'm done. Sorry, Aslan.
We need to take our guy to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, cheer him up. I think other than a Mood Plus, the only thing that's going to cheer you up is a Corey rap, or maybe winning trivia, or maybe even bingo. That's Thursday nights. There's lunch specials every single day, weekdays, over at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m. Today's a half-pound black Angus beef burger. Comes with a side dish of your choice. Again, only $8.99. And then tomorrow's trivia night, 7 o'clock. Corey in town here in Tallahassee. He might be there, flexing that brain of his. Don't ask him, though, about the running game. He'll be calmed down by then, we think.
I'm done. That was it. It's off my chest. I feel better now.
You'll all feel better if you go to the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Check them on out. 2475 Appalachia Parkway, cptallybar.com, the website. All right, let's maybe get back on the sunnier side of things here. So you like the quarterback. It's at least something worth salvaging, holding on to. Although who knows, man. Again, it is one game. I mean, theoretically, he should get better every single week, and so should everybody else around him. But who knows? Maybe we'll be here after they lose to the Gators, and we want everybody gone. But we'll project that everyone keeps building and getting a little bit better. And to your point, man, we saw so many young guys. I thought Hakeem looked really good for 4 for 53. Although I know, like, you gave him a little bit of a pass in the wrap. You're like, I know he fumbled, but he was trying to get extra yards. And I was like, well, I mean, that doesn't give you a pass to fumble the ball because you're trying to get more yards. But, you know, it got recovered, so we won't ding him too much. But you start thinking about it. You got a really good tight end, apparently. Shout out to you, Corey, for really being on the Landon Thomas bus from day one when he got to campus. I didn't particularly see anything. I thought that was game-breaking or ultra-dynamic. But, man, to go 7 for 80 against that team with those linebackers, and I know their traditional stats are pretty low, but, man, Clemson does have really highly regarded, heralded recruits on that defensive side of things, especially in the secondary, and again, obviously the linebacker. So you like your tight end, you like your wide receiver. You know, if this football thing doesn't work out, Cam Davis might have a future in rugby, just pushing piles, 30, 40 yards ahead. And Amari Williams obviously catches his first pass, and it's a touchdown. So offensively, you know, whatever they've been lacking in developing on the offensive line, which we've covered there, you feel good about those pieces. I mean, is that enough to be a core for 2025? Like, is Brock Glenn, Hakeem Williams, Landon Thomas, and let's say Cam Davis, is that enough of a core to build around? Still gonna have to go to the portal to get back to, like, respectability. I know that's a very objective term, or subjective rather, in your opinion.
Maybe. You got to see if you got anything special at the skill positions. I have not been, other than the only thing I've seen special from Cam Davis so far, and it's not nothing, is driving piles. You know, that was a defensive tackle he drove for 6 yards. That's really impressive. Really, it was. I love it. It gets teams fired up. It gets the fans fired up. It's good to see a guy fighting that hard and pushing that hard. At the same time, nothing else. I don't know that he's made a single person miss all season, but he can run into him and move him forward. But I definitely need to see a lot more from him to assume he's going to be something to build around. But we got 6 games now to see it. And maybe having a quarterback that can move will open up some things if the quarterback decides to ever keep the ball and run with it and get a first down or two with his legs. But why do that? Why do that when you got the 130 seconds? They're not Kent State. They're not 133. Why change anything? But yeah, I think McCoy, again, I think is a guy, man. I know nobody's seen him yet. I think McCoy is a guy. And you think about McCoy, Hakeem, Landon Thomas, maybe those freshman running backs. I think BJ Gibson got on the field. I've liked what I've seen out of him in practice. I don't know if he's a superstar, but I think he could be solid. And then, Destin Hill, if he's back here next year. Like, there are pieces at the skill positions where you think, okay, they might be something. They might be pretty decent. They might be pretty decent. So there's stuff like that gives you a little bit of hope. But at the offensive line, I mean, right? Like, doesn't it all come back to the offensive line and the running game? How good could you possibly be if you still have a horrible running game? Yeah. What's the ceiling? 5 wins? So I want to see much, much, much better from the running game than anything else. Yeah. I wanted to say this too, though. It was interesting in the postgame, just like it was interesting in the pregame leading up to it. The Florida State head coach is not about to ever give praise to Brock Glenn without somewhere along the way bringing up Luke Kromenhoek.
Did he? I didn't pick anything up. He did?
Oh, yeah, he did it. He did it again. Well, number one, he didn't heap praise at Brock. He said he was solid. Have to go back and look at the film. He did some good things, but he was not effusive at all. Not like we are. Like I thought he would be more effusive, but maybe that has to do with like Ira pointed out, they're 1-5. You don't need to be effusive about anything in your praise. But he did bring up Luke during the press conference on Saturday night. I can't remember the context. I thought it was about like preparing, being ready. Oh, and he said that they had planned to get him some action in the game. That the plan was for Luke to play, and then he didn't. So he brought that up, which I thought was interesting. Just like I thought it was interesting that he kept talking about him last week. So I'm not convinced that the head coach at Florida State thinks Brock Glenn is the future. I just think that's something to, and that's me reading between the lines. That's not me knowing anything. What do I know? Nothing. Or hearing from anybody, any inside sources. But the fact that he continually brings up Luke means that I don't think Brock Glenn. I think Kromenhoek will be a part of these next 6 games in some capacity. Because it seems like Norvell definitely wants him to be a part of the QB battle in 2025 for sure.
Yeah. So what he said, and I think it was you that you asked the question about considering Brock's last 2 starts being almost impossible. He made some really good plays. Part of Norvell's response was, I think that being Brock, I think that he has a great demeanor about him. I'm proud of him for how he prepared and proud of Luke for how he prepared. There's even times going into potentially getting him an opportunity throughout it. Obviously the game, how it played and the sequence, I elected not to do that for this one.
So I asked specifically about Brock Glenn because of the challenges of the last 2 starts, Louisville and Georgia, and that he got to feel good about himself again. He didn't get overwhelmed. He wasn't horrible. He wasn't, he just played like he looked like a real quarterback. He contributed. He looked like a college football quarterback. So I asked him, as Aslan pointed out, the question was only about Brock Glenn. And he made a point in that answer to bring up Kromenhoek. And I'm just saying that's something to monitor, right? Like, you need one of them to be the guy, probably. And it would appear that Mike Norvell is not convinced, nor should he be, frankly, that Brock Glenn is the guy. And he keeps trying to remind all of us of that. Like, hey, man, Brock Glenn might not be starting against Florida. It might be the other guy. We'll see. Like, Kromenhoek's going to get some reps, I think, in some of these games. And I do think that it's absolutely not Brock Glenn's job in 2025 by any stretch of the imagination. He has not firmed anything up.
Well, here's the thing. Like, did Mike anticipate getting blown out, and then that's when he was going to put Luke in there? Because, like, why didn't you put Luke in then? I know he's like the sequence didn't materialize, but what is the sequence you wanted to bring in your backup quarterback that you might have game planned for? Because listen, I mean, I think Ira reported that he had heard, there's reports out there, and I think Ira heard the same thing, basically, that Luke was kind of under the impression that he was probably going to get in the game on Saturday. So, and Mike corroborated himself by those comments. So, like, why doesn't he get in the game then? Because you anticipated like maybe being down 24-0 and Brock throwing a pick 6, and then at that point you throw Luke in because the game was in the balance. So either Brock was good enough to stay in the battle and help you maybe win that game, or the game's in the balance. Why not put Luke in there and see if he pushes you over? We won't get an answer on that, but like, how does that work in your mind?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a good question. I would have thought when it's 17-0 and you just threw an interception right to a safety, that our linebacker, can't remember who intercepted it, that would have been a time to give Luke a shot. So if that wasn't the time, I don't know that there is a time. It's odd. You're right. He might have thought they were going to be down 37-7 or something, and that would have been a time to get him in. It's odd to have a plan like that when he's not your starter. And here's the thing, Aslan, that now is going to upset me again. If you had a plan during the week to get Luke Kromenhoek some action, which it sounds like Norvell did, right? We're not making that up. That's how it sounded in the room. That's how it reads when you just read the quote. Yeah. That you had a plan, or you had an idea or a game plan that you might get Kromenhoek a series or 2. You're telling me for the first 5 games, you couldn't have a plan to get Brock Glenn some playing time? Why? Brock Glenn gives you something that DJ doesn't. So why wouldn't you have a plan for Brock Glenn or Trevor Jackson or, hey, a Wildcat? Why do you have a plan for Kromenhoek? The only time you admit anyway to going into a game with a plan to play the backup is when the backup is starting. That's just odd. It's just odd. It's against Clemson, and you're 1-4, about to be 1-5. It just, but moving forward, if he wants to do, I hate when these coaches do this, but if you want to do one series for one guy and one series for another guy, whatever. It's not fair to Brock. I think Brock earned the right from the way he played on Saturday night to start the next game and to play that game as long as it's in the balance, unless he's horrible and throws 3 interceptions. I think you earned that right with the way he played on Saturday. So, but you also, if you think Kromenhoek is legitimately the future, if you think Kromenhoek is an NFL quarterback, and he is a guy that can lead you he's the difference between a 6-win team and a 10-win team. And he's also a guy that can get you good receivers to come play. He can unlock this offense. Then you need to play him. You need to play him some because, again, Mike, your job might not be on the line in 2025, but a lot of other people's jobs will be. You need to figure out your quarterback situation. I thought Saturday night was a positive step, but it wasn't a leap. So there's still plenty of room in runway. 6 games left. 4 are winnable. 2 probably aren't, but 4 are definitely winnable. That you can figure out what you got at the quarterback position. At least Brock looks like he is a legitimate college quarterback, unlike a couple maybe of the other guys you brought in here since you got here.
Hey, man, again, he didn't think Jordan Travis was going to be the guy. So maybe Brock just has to keep going out there. I don't know who's going to be his champion, who's going to be his Kenny Dillingham. Maybe it's going to be this show.
Yeah, maybe it's Wake Up Warchant, man. We love you, Brock. We love you. It is Brocktober.
Yeah. Again, I just wonder how much of it is, and there's people that are like, where have we gone to where we're sitting here and we're not pissed off about getting doubled up in yardage and losing by 2 scores to our chief conference.
Who listening to this show thought Florida State was going to win? Any of y'all?
Right.
What team have you been watching? We're just dealing with reality that this was coming. We knew this loss was coming. It was just going to be how it looked, and I thought there was at least with the quarterback and some of the receivers that made some plays, especially the tight end. There was some good stuff to talk about and build on.
Yeah. So to pivot back, I guess, and we'll maybe touch on the defense one final time, but for those people that were like, what will it be like? How bad, how dumb will Mike look like if Brock goes in there and balls out? Now, he didn't ball out, but the consensus is, Corey, that there's some people on the boards that are like, man, they'd be 5-1 if he started.
Incorrect.
Yeah, so I don't know. I am of the belief that, okay, like what has happened in the past, we really can't change it. Not so you can't be upset about it. Maybe you're 3-2. Maybe you beat Memphis, but I don't know. Maybe it doesn't drop it in the bucket to Ja'Kai the way DJ did against Cal, and maybe don't beat Cal. So I don't know if I want to play that sort of keeping score in the retrospect.
Here's why I would say that it's definitely not 5-1. It's because of what I saw on Saturday night, in the sense that what I thought Brock's greatest addition to the offense would not be him just picking up 4th down throws and making throws over the middle of the field. It was his legs, and that wasn't utilized at all. There was no design run call at all the whole game. So if that was going to be what they were going to do with Brock Glenn, I thought him coming in and running it 5 or 6 times on a scripted design run would open up the running game for everyone else. But if Mike Norvell is going to continue to call plays as if he's got DJ back there and the quarterback is never going to keep the ball, then I don't think they'd be 5-1, because they still wouldn't have been able to run the ball, as we just saw. They didn't run the ball at all.
That's the absolute last hope for this edition of this team and this offensive line. Again, they are beyond redemption, but that's like the last thing you can kind of maybe cling on to, right? About getting just some semblance of, I don't want to even call it effective, but just you have to factor it in run game if you're an opposing defense, is that if they do run Brock, whether it's stuff like Klubnik where they had design draw plays, or some of this RPO read option stuff where you almost drill into his head, we do not care what you see crashing down. You're going to keep it one time, just so that is in the back of someone's head, because maybe that just creates enough hesitation so they're not playing with as much leverage, so you can push them off their spot just a half yard more to the side, just so you open up a little bit more of a hole, right? I mean, that's where we're at this point when it comes to this running game. But it is worth considering what could happen if they go ahead and let Brock use that part of his game too, because that fourth down play, that was not a design run, but he showed you that he's elusive, and he's willing to run and put his head down and get some tough yardage. So why not fully explore that, because it can open up more than just giving Brock a nice stat sheet.
Yeah, that was really disappointing. The running game is obviously, as you guys heard 20 minutes ago, an enormous thorn in my side. That was a really disappointing element to it on Saturday night. Was you didn't even give the running game a chance. Did you really think the stuff that hadn't been working against Memphis was going to just calling the same plays was going to work against Clemson? It didn't work against Memphis or SMU, but it's going to work against Clemson. All right, Mike, smart. At some point, just to see what it does, have the kid run. Not a scramble, not a 4th and 10 miracle scramble, but actually a designed run. Again, you guys saw him. He's not outlandishly athletic, but he is absolutely athletic enough to keep defenses honest. And he can turn a 1-yard run by Toafili, because you handed it to him 7 yards back out of the shotgun, into a 12-yard run on the other side of the field if he keeps it, or maybe a 20-yard run. Who knows? And so, yes, that is something that I would really like to see. I was really disappointed. And there was a play in that game, Aslan, where Glenn, I think it was on their last touchdown. They get inside the 20, they're inside the 15. He keeps it and rolls to his left some, and he could have run for 5 or 6 yards, but instead he swung it out to the left. He made a bad throw, I think, or the receiver wasn't where he was supposed to be. But he made a bad throw to whatever receiver he was supposed to be throwing to. But just that athleticism, and if the receiver catches it, he gets probably 7 yards. It's a 7-yard, and that's not a huge deal, I get it, but it's a 7-yard play from an offense that had been getting that would have been a minus 2-yard play with the other quarterback. He broke containment. He showed the athleticism. He got to the edge. He could have run for a few yards, but instead he threw it out left to the receiver who was still there. It was a bad throw, but it was the right read. It was a fine read. And it was that element of athleticism that you see, can get you those hidden yards that you have such a hard time getting. You can't run the ball traditionally. You can't run the ball like you want to run the ball, clearly. So try something else.
Yeah. Listen, because full disclosure, I was watching the game on TV like most of you folks. I made it to campus for the second half. I was watching it inside the auditorium where we do the post game press conference core, and I think it might have been the fourth quarter, man. But they showed that Florida, and Jeff pointed this out in the Warchant report powered by Cummins last week before the SMU game, to where I think Florida State their average third down was 8.1 yards. And I think on Saturday night, it was the fourth quarter. It was either late third, early fourth quarter, and the ESPN stats had up there. They're Florida State's average third down on Saturday night against Clemson was 9 yards. That's just crazy. Yeah. When you obviously have athletes at quarterback, at running back, at wide receiver, Wildcat, which again, Riley pointed it out when you did the wrap with Ira, and it's crazy that has not been explored.
At all. Not even one single snap, Aslan. Not one single snap have they done a Wildcat all year. The last time they ran the Wildcat that I remember was a 75-yard run by Toafili. It seemed to work okay. But they have not even tried to do it this year. It's bizarre. It's beyond explanation. You've got to, as a head coach, getting $10 million a year. Not even that. A head coach getting $100,000 a year. This is your team. You've got to. It is your duty. It is what you get paid for to figure out a way to move the ball. Whatever it takes, man. And instead, you keep handing it to these, at least for right now, pedestrian running backs behind an awful offensive line and expecting a different result. There's a saying about that somewhere out there. I can't remember what it is. So that's what's so confounding and frustrating about it. But it's his offense. Great. Well, get somebody that can teach the line to block it better or develop line better, or you switch the offense. But this is you can't do this anymore. You can't do this again. I just want to stress again how bad this offense is. It is historically bad. At a very proud university, sure, but it's a university that had a winless season. It's a university that wasn't good for 30 years before it started playing football. When it got relevant nationally. It had been around for 30 years, doing a lot of nothing, really. And you've eclipsed even those bad teams. It's just with your offense and maybe with your record. You might have a Daryl Muger record. You're probably on your way to having a Daryl Muger record this season, 2-10, 3-9, and it's very, very, very disappointing to see what's going on there.
They're going to beat Duke. They're going to beat North Carolina. They're going to beat Charleston Southern.
Settle down. Those are coin flip games. They could. Nah. They're winnable. But when you run for 55 yards a game, man, you're not guaranteed of beating anyone. That's why you struggled with Pitt last year. Your two receivers are out. The only reason you won is because your quarterback was a magician. Wasn't because the offensive line did anything of note at all. They opened one crease for Trey Benson to hit a big run. That's it. Other than that, your offensive line was bad in that game, just like they've been bad for the last year and a half, 2 years really. It's you can't keep going like this. You just can't keep doing this. It means too much to too many people, Aslan. Listen to my voice. It means too much to too many people. And one last thing, because again, you guys know I'm a fan of Norvell. I like. I really enjoyed what he did. I enjoyed 2022 and 2023, and in fact, I enjoyed after the debacle to start the season. I enjoyed 2021. You started to see real signs of growth, and okay, this guy knows what he's doing. But again, I think it's fair to point out I wouldn't expect if you're a great coach, if you're a great college football coach, I think it's fair for somebody to wonder. Okay, if you're a great college football coach, would your year 5 look like this? Has any great college football coaches year 5 looked like this? 1-5 is bad enough. On the way to 2-10 or 3-9, that's bad enough. To have an offense that's in the bottom 5% in every single statistic, that's it's unimaginable.
Your offense, handpicked by guys that you've picked out.
Correct.
Going to people, asking them specifically to give you millions of dollars to fund this effort. Yeah, it's crazy.
And then you make a decision to play a quarterback that clearly doesn't give you the best chance to win for 5 games.
Not only play it, but you went and recruit him thinking what?
Yeah, right. Again, well, no, that's the thing.
The run game was going to be okay, and they obviously can't run the ball. So I'm sorry.
And when people give us grief, I don't know if they're still doing it. When they give us grief about us thinking it was going to be a good team, again, I keep coming back to we all assumed wrongly, that they would be able to run the ball. We thought they were going to have a good rushing attack. We thought the offensive line was going to be good. It has been disastrous. If you had obviously told me before the season, and it's I'm not giving us an excuse. It is hard to know how well you're going to be able to run the ball when they don't tackle each other in practice. It just is. You don't know. And you're going up against the same defense every day. They ran the ball well in August. Now that says something about the defense you're playing, sure, but they looked like they were going to be able to run the ball in August. But it's in practice with people not getting tackled. And the quarterback run game has nothing to do with anything in practice. So anyway, that's why it wasn't as if we thought we saw greatness. I just assumed they'd be able to average 200 yards a game rushing. That's not a lot to ask for. 180 or 200 is not a lot to ask for. If they averaged 190 yards rushing a game, they would probably be 4-2, in my opinion.
Yeah.
They averaged 58. My bad.
How many running backs have run for more yards?
72 running backs in the country have run for more yards than Florida State has as a team. So the point the point I'm trying to make is that is absolutely where you want to know where the disconnect is and what we saw, why we thought they would be good. It is absolutely the running game. We thought it was going to be a good running game based on the people that were coming back, based on the running backs, more than anything based on the track record of the guy calling the plays and the guy coaching the line of scrimmage, that they were going to be above average in that regard. They have been impossibly bad, literally unbelievably bad, and that's where the disconnect is. And that's more than anything. Defense has been a disappointment, sure. More than anything, that's why they're 1-5. And a laughing stock of an offense is because of the running game. But, so anyway, all that being said, like Norvell, think he can still maybe turn it around. He's going to have to make some serious changes. We get all that. And again, it's not that big a deal. I just want to talk about this real quick, Aslan. In the grand scheme of things, he's got a heck of a lot more to worry about than end of game, end of half strategy. But I would like Mike Norvell to start coaching to what his team is and not what he wants it to be. You are not giving your team the best chance to win a game. And they didn't have much of a chance because of mistakes you've made in the last year. They did not have much of a chance to win that game on Saturday night either way. But calling a timeout with 49 seconds left to try to get the ball back, to do what?
Yeah.
What's more? So I want to paint the scenario real quick, everyone, because I do like aggression. I have no problem with any of the fourth downs he got or went for, and that's not just because I think they picked them all up or most of them up. I'm all about that. I'm all about fake punts. I'm all about rushing the punter if you feel like you got a chance to go do it, depending on the context. But Florida State has 2 timeouts. I think they sack Klubnik, or they do something. They sack him, or there's a tackle for loss. So Clemson has the ball at their own 28-yard line, 49 seconds left, 3rd and 13. Norvell bangs a timeout quickly. So now that he's used 2, there's only because he had to burn a timeout before he punted. Anyway, yeah. So he's only got, if he'd had more than if he'd had 3 timeouts, I'd have been okay. But so he's got 2 timeouts, he burns 1, so he's got 1 left. There's 49 seconds left. 3rd and 13. Dabo was going to let the clock run. Dabo is probably not going to snap it again until there were 12, 14 seconds left on the clock. He was probably going to run it, punt, end of the half. But you call a timeout. So there's 49 seconds now. Dabo and the powers that be on that sideline decide, well, let's go for it. And, of course, your defense, because it's your defense, gives up 16 yards, an easy completion for 16 yards on 3rd and 13. My problem, Aslan, isn't that you gave up the conversion and then Clemson went down and scored. That was the risk you were taking. That happens. What was the reward going to be?
Yeah.
What did he think what was best case scenario for calling that timeout?
All right, so best case scenario, Clemson, let's say they run it.
Yeah.
So it's 4th and 10. We'll say
at
they
the
get
31-yard line
31-yard
with
line,
let's say 44 seconds left.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so you've got 1 timeout left, right?
Yep. No, and then you have to you burn it. So now you have 0.
Okay, so we're going to say
so you take a timeout,
right.
which is your last.
Yeah.
With 44 seconds left, Clemson's ball on their own 31.
You probably call for a fair catch on your own, I don't know, 30? Or is that too aggressive?
That's a 40-yard punt. That's fine. Okay. I would say 25, and I also don't think he'd call for a fair catch because they don't catch their punts. So he probably lets it bounce around for 9 seconds. But let's give LaWayne McCoy the benefit of the doubt that he actually goes and catches it. And you get the ball at your own 29-yard line. That play is probably going to take 8 seconds, 7 seconds. So you have the ball, no timeouts, starting quarterback, bad offensive line. You've got 70 yards total in the half. Something like that, right? 70 or 80 yards?
Let me look at it. Yeah.
You no timeouts against a good defense at your own 30-yard line.
84 yards.
Sorry. So you've got 84 yards for the whole half.
Mm-hmm.
What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I know. I'm with you.
So that my point is, you've got to coach like you're not coaching Jordan Travis, man, and you don't have anybody you can just throw it up to Keon. The likelihood of Clemson converting that 3rd and 13 and then going down the field to get points is, I would guess, 5 or 10 times higher than you at your own 30 with no timeouts getting into even field goal range. And it would be a long field goal, and you've got a good kicker who you don't use anymore because you're never in field goal range. But what is more likely, that Clemson converts the 3rd and 13 and then marches down the field for more points, or you get the ball back, best case scenario, at your own 30, 25-yard line, somewhere around there, no timeouts, and you have to go 40 yards in 3 plays to get into field goal range. That's what it's just. Yeah. It's not coaching to what your team is, man. It would have been an absolute victory to go in only down 20-7 when you've been outgained. At that point, it was like 260 yards to 80.
You were outgained 313 yards to 84 in the first half,
and you could have been down by 13 points, and you're getting the ball back to start the second half. Yeah. So it's fine. Maybe they wanted to go block the punt. They had a great punt block set up. fine. And again, at the end of the day, what does it matter? They lost by 16. They could have lost by 30. It did not change the complexion of the game. They're not good enough to beat Clemson. I would like my man to start coaching to what team he has, and the likelihood of Clemson going down and getting points before the half was so much greater, even facing a 3rd and 13, than your horrible offense, doing anything with the ball in the line in the final 30 seconds without a timeout.
Well, I mean, his job right now should be to mitigate as much as he possibly can.
Right.
And he didn't in that situation. And I still don't think Florida State ends up winning that game. But who knows, man? It has a different look. 20-7 at halftime. Like, all right, we didn't convert.
20-7, Aslan, remember, and you're driving on your first drive of the second half.
Yes.
You run 2 times to start the half, get nothing. Brock Glenn fires for a first down. You run 2 more times, get nothing. Brock Glenn fires for a first down. You're starting to feel good. Oh, wait, the center just snapped it 50 yards over his head. There goes that drive. There goes the game. Your 5th year, what is he, 29? What's Maurice, 33 now? Just literally snaps it. What was that, 10 feet over his head?
Yeah.
How does that happen?
I don't know.
Anyway, so that was all very frustrating. But, hey, I just wanted to explain my viewpoint on that. I'm all for aggression. It's fine. It didn't end up mattering. But your only chance to win the game is to shorten possessions, not give you more. In that instance, your defense is lucky that you've only given up 20 points. I know 3rd and 13 isn't very likely. I wonder what Clemson's percentage of 3rd and 10 conversions are this year. I wonder what it is. I bet it's probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 30%, 25%. But your chances of going 40 yards in 3 plays against Clemson is right at about 2%. So play the odds there and just take it into halftime, being okay. Or I don't know, man. Well, yeah.
125th in the country. 125th in the country in 3rd down conversion percentage.
Florida State's defense.
Oh, Florida State's defense, they're 117th.
Well, who's 125th?
The offense.
Oh, yeah. Hey, cash down, baby. Cash down. Sorry, I'm done. I'm done, everyone. Maybe I'm just ornery because the Braves aren't in the postseason. I'm having to watch the Phillies and the Mets, our 2 rivals, battle it out. Hey, great win for the Phillies on Sunday, everyone. Tough loss for the Mets. But it's postseason baseball. It's not for the faint of heart.
Football's in full swing, and fall is right around the corner, if not already at our door. Have we hit fall equinox? I don't know. I'm not sure. But fuel up for both with Factor's no prep, no mess meals. Meet all of your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. Factor's fresh, never frozen meals. They are dietitian approved, and they're ready to eat in just 2 minutes, everybody. So no matter how busy you are, and we're all busy, I get it. Well, y'all are busy. Y'all have kids and wives and stuff. I don't have either. You're always going to have time to enjoy nutritious, great tasting meals with Factor. So make today the day you start it off and you change it all up with a new healthy routine. What are you waiting for? Make every day delicious by treating yourself to restaurant-quality meals that feature premium ingredients like filet mignon, shrimp, and even blackened salmon. Head to factormeals.com/wakeup50. Use the code WAKEUP50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That code is WAKEUP50 at factormeals.com/wakeup50. Again, 50% off the first box, 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. All right, a couple things before we leave. We go to our over-under contest from this past week. 80% of the voting public took the under on the first prop, which was Alex Mastromano total punting yardage, 340 and a half. 340 and a half. I
should have done 300. I should have done 300.
No, dude, he beat 333.
I know, but 80% hit the under, so
Yeah.
they 80% won the bet.
Well, they might have changed if you would have put it at 300. 61% of the betting public took the under on Clemson defensive or special teams touchdowns at 1/2.
Okay.
That was my bad. Also my bad, the betting public, 74% took the under on Florida State offensive turnovers, 2.5. They fumbled it 4 times. I thought I was going to be all right, but they recovered all of them. They only threw the 1 interception, and they
fumbled 4 times.
Yeah. I think they count the bad snaps as fumbles.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, then there you go. They're going to lead the country in fumbles, apparently.
Florida State tackles for loss 6.5. 76% of the voting public took the under. I think they only had 5, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they had 5 tackles for loss.
I still think that was a good number.
It is. Brock Glenn rushing attempts, excluding sacks, 7.5. Only 39% of the voting public took the under, which was the correct answer.
He had 3, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then all 3 were maybe one was kind of a run. I don't remember, but I feel like all 3 were scrambles. They weren't actual just running plays.
Florida State longest rushing play, 23.5 yards.
Is it 99% took the under?
Only 43% of the betting public took the under.
Okay, all right.
Very bullish. I don't know, 10?
I think Toafili had the 9. No, it was Brock Glenn with the 10-yard run.
Brock had a 10, and then Cam Davis had a 10, which I think was the rugby run, probably.
Yeah.
So,
Jeez,
snaps to Florida State players not named Brock Glenn, 6.5. 68% of the voting public was on it. They took the under. So, not one single player got a snap that was not named Brock
unbelievable.
Glenn.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Shout out to our guy, Sat B. Nole. He's the one who won. And there was like 5 people that aced it, and we had more than we usually have in terms of the menu. And he had 240 on the tiebreaker, which was Brock Glenn total yards. And I think it was like 243 because he finished with 15 yards running and he had 228 in the air. So he prices right on the nose practically. So shout out to Sat B. Nolan. I think Jamal was our non-subscriber winner of the week. Again, these are open to anybody, whether you're a subscriber or not. $10 to our top subscriber, $10 to a top random fan out there. So get involved every single week. Was it targeting Cal versus Miami fourth quarter, Corey Clark?
It was. But
did he not hit him with the shoulder?
I think he
was all helmet.
Got him
okay.
with the helmet. But I guess it was. Yeah, if it had been called on the field, it would have stayed. I think the bigger problem is you had a 35-10 lead and you blew it. Not one, because it wasn't like it was like 3rd and 14 when he did that. So if he just tackles him at the legs, it's 4th and 8. They're going to be punting anyway. It would have been a bailout way to lose a game.
Yeah.
Earlier
in the drive too, Cal got not bailed out, but like Miami got a face mask on a sack that I think on 3rd down would have turned the ball over to them.
And after the Restrepo 77-yard catch on the final drive, and they get down inside the 20, the Miami receiver kicks a dude.
Oh yeah.
So it goes from 2nd and 5 to 2nd and 20, and then 3rd and 20, and then they let a swing pass, literally just a swing pass, go for 22 yards, and they lose the game. So they deserve to lose. Miami looked very, very beatable again for 3 quarters. That defense is not good. I think they're going to struggle. I assume it's going to be them and Clemson. I would assume Clemson would win that game just because I don't trust Miami's defense at all. But man, they got a real one at quarterback. He makes a lot. I mean, what would their record be if they hadn't brought in Cam Ward?
Jeez, 1-5.
Like it's legitimate, right? Like is that probably
that entire last? I mean, it wasn't just the last drive; it was the entire second half. I mean, they were down by 25 points with like 8 minutes to go in the 3rd quarter. Every drive, that guy is in such command of that offense, it makes me sick. And I know there's some overlap between the air raid concepts he ran at Washington State and what Shannon Dawson tries to do at Miami, but it's not even fair. I think that last timeout they took, either on the swing pass or maybe the touchdown play, it felt like Shannon Dawson was calling a play and Cam Ward was like clapping his hands softly like, no, this is actually what we're supposed to be doing on this play. Like he knows it's
or he definitely had an idea of what they should run to get in the end zone, what he trusted more than what Dawson was calling. Yeah. But it's like how the impact that a good quarterback can have, and we lived it here in Tallahassee for the last 2.5, 3 years, and Miami's living it now. That kind of quarterback, what it does just for everybody, obviously it puts more points on the scoreboard and more W's in the win-loss column, but it's like what it does just for the psyche and the belief of a team. Like that team is not going to go into any game the rest of the year thinking they're going to lose as long as he's the quarterback. They will lose. They're not going to go 17-0 or whatever, but they're not going to think they're going to lose. They're going to go into every game thinking they can win. And more importantly, when they get down in a game, which might be every game, they're going to know that they can come back and win. Man, you can't put a price tag. Well, maybe you can. But we'll see if the price of business goes up next year. But you really can't overstate how important a flipping dynamic quarterback is, man. Like you just said, it is probably a little hyperbolic because they played such a soft schedule, but not much, man. Without Cam Ward, they probably lost at least 3 times this year. Yeah. And right now they're undefeated, like top 6 in the country. That's how important that guy is. Doesn't matter any of the other talent around him. Obviously it does. He needs talent. He needs guys around him. But that guy alone, if they just had the quarterbacks they had last year, he is such an upgrade that it's like they're playing different sports. And it's just remarkable how much one person can impact a 100-man roster. One person.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Man. They probably have just as good of an offensive line as they did last year. I mean, they still got Mark Fletcher. They did upgrade their running back. They brought in Sam Brown, but it's still Restrepo. I mean, just Restrepo is such a reliable guy for them. But yeah, it's that quarterback. Yeah, Cristobal said after the game, I've said it a million times, I've got complete and utter faith in that guy and everything he represents and stands for. Wish we could say that about our guys.
Well, maybe Brock Glenn will be the guy, or maybe Luke will be the guy. I did want to also add one thing. It's really awesome what happened at Vanderbilt. That's really cool. That's one of the all-time. Obviously, I guess it's probably the best win in their program history. Maybe they did something during World War I. But it's been a while since Vanderbilt did anything like that, or never. They were 0-60 versus top 5 teams. It was awesome. It literally was awesome. I'm not being sarcastic.
But
and they dragged the goalpost down Broadway and threw it in the river, and they had to pay Alabama $100,000, which is crazy. I didn't know the schools got the payment. I thought it went to the SEC. It actually goes to Alabama, which is funny. But what bothers me about it, Aslan, just like what bothers me about Arkansas, Tennessee, and Ole Miss losing to Kentucky, doesn't matter. It's like the Cowboys losing to the Eagles in October. You're still very much alive in the playoff hunt. Tennessee and Alabama will both be in. Alabama will not. Their percentage of making the playoff went from 98%. This is one of those FPI nonsense things. 98% to 81%. They lost to Vanderbilt. They give up 40 to Vanderbilt. They still have an 80% chance of making the playoff.
That's what everybody wanted, Corey. This is what everybody wanted. Everybody wanted inclusivity. So
right. And you want 6 teams and you want 6 SEC teams in the championship game. I'm telling you, folks. I know I keep saying it. Keep monitoring that Big Ten. USC lost again. Michigan lost to Washington. It's not a good Washington team. There is one good team, maybe Penn State, but we all know what Penn State does. They'll probably have 2 teams. Maybe they can sneak Nebraska in, but the Big Ten probably looks like they're only a lock for like 2 teams in the playoff right now, right?
Yeah, Oregon and Ohio State.
Yeah, and maybe Penn State. We'll see. Yeah. But They need good teams. They need good teams. And so keep rooting for chaos in the Big Ten. Keep rooting for just Ohio State to be good. Like USC has come back down to earth. They're nothing special at all. Just Penn State is Penn State. Wisconsin looks not great. Purdue's always horrible. Maybe Michigan isn't nearly as good this year, obviously. Washington, all that. Let's keep hoping for mediocrity in the Big Ten so Florida State and Clemson become much more attractive. I know Florida State's having an awful year. It wasn't that long ago they went undefeated and drew huge ratings. So just keep that in mind and hope that the Big Ten really – like the SEC gets 6 teams. Like for 1 year, root for the SEC to get 7 teams in the playoff and the Big Ten to get 2.
Okay. That's what we'll do, everybody.
Long show. Let's get out of here.
Yeah, we'll be back with subsequent shows this week. Maybe not 4 more. It is an off week, by the way, everybody. So maybe we'll take a little bit of that ourselves. But Seminole Headlines will be there for you folks on Tuesday. Jeff Cameron's show is going to be there for you 1 to 4 today. Tune in. I will be as well. Ira also makes his hits on Monday on the JCS. Get some insight from the dean of the Florida State beat, some call him. We're done. He's Corey. I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Again, vitaminenergy.com, promo code WARCHAMP, BOGO. Buy one, get one free. Shake it and take it.